We were muted. So, hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your guest, Alan Tucker.
I'm your co-host, Austin.
No, your co-host, Ian.
I'm really excited.
Told you day wasn't over yet.
Sorry, Alan. Go.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
I am really excited for today's episode. I love monsters. It's single-handedly my favorite part of D&D. I love making them. I love running them. And so I'm super excited for you to share more about incredible creatures with us. It is quickly becoming the monster book I didn't know I needed. So
And I like slaying them.
Yes. That's the other part. Who doesn't like bringing these big baddies down? So I want to thank everyone for joining us here today at Crit Academy Studios, where everything's made up and I forget to unmute the mics.
You didn't unmute
That's right.
the
Your
mics, did you?
goals are like a fantasy setting without incredible creatures.
What's that?
Oh, I thought you didn't unmute them again. I was like, I'm so disappointed in you.
Yeah, no, I thought we had a good launch and I done goofed. Story of my life. Been a rough day. So I'm really excited, as I said, for today's show. Incredible Creatures is a fantastic product and I'm excited to dive into it. But before that, we always start our show off on a really high note by giving away fat loots to our listeners.
Yeah. I thought you looked like you had more to say, so I was just like, okay, dude. Letting it go.
You got this.
All right. So our first RPG Fat Loot giveaway today is The Hydra Hunt by David Barentine. A terrible plague of monsters has started moving into the surrounding town of Pine Pass. Each day that passes, new creatures encroach further into the fields and homes that lie on the outskirts of this region. It has fallen to the members of the Emerald Eye to protect the citizens of Pine Pass. With their members stretched thin, rumors brought to Aranella Duskwalker, the guild's leader, about a new threat stalking through the unexplored swamps has raised many concerns. Without staff readily available, it falls on her to hire any willing group of adventurers, i.e. you, to investigate if there is any merit to these rumors. Our winner today is Archer 1.
Archer 1, congratulations.
But don't worry if you didn't win. You can pick up more awesome products at critacademy.com and subscribe for your chance to win. It's that easy. Just go to the little newsletter thing, just sign up, and you're just kind of put into a poll. It's super simple.
It's like bingo.
Yeah, kind of.
Right. All right. With that, we will move on to our main topic, incredible creatures. Alan, once again, thank you so much for joining us. You are an awesome content creator. You are a great support group for those of us that don't know what the hell we're doing. And so we truly appreciate you and all the fantastic work you do. So if those of you who don't know, Alan has been on the show before. And I will continue to have great content creators on my show, such as yourself. But for those who don't know about the awesome work that you do, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I started playing D&D when dinosaurs walked the earth back in the early 80s. And did, I don't know, I guess probably around early 90s, I would say. I kind of left because of life and such. And then 25 years or so later, I picked it up again with 5th edition. Really got into it pretty easy at that point because it was honestly a lot like 2nd edition, which is kind of where I quit. I missed 3rd and 4th, but it was just it's a lot like 2nd, except without THACO and things like that. But
certainly an improvement, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I wrote some fantasy and science fiction novels, and then before that, once I started playing again, I thought, well, heck, I can kind of do these things that I like, as well as combine them with the things that I do, like graphic design and layout. Once I found the DM's Guild, and I started writing adventures and putting them up there, and
nice.
And that's all she wrote, huh?
Yeah, that was it. Sorry, I've got some dogs playing in the background.
No, that's okay. I know that. I know that feeling.
Oh yeah.
That was 2017, I think, late September maybe, when I started first published on the Guild, and been doing that ever since.
Awesome.
Writing and creating. It's been been a great run.
So I have to ask, because I'm in the process of writing my first fantasy novel. How did that go for you?
Well, I'm making way more money writing adventures and comics for D&D, so if that tells you anything.
Wonderful. What is the name of your book? Is it something I can pick up anywhere, like Amazon or anything?
Yeah, they are actually all available on Amazon under my name. I've got two, one fantasy series that was kind of geared toward young adults, called the Mother Earth series.
Mm-hmm.
And the first book in that series is called A Measure of Disorder.
I'll have to check
And
it out.
then I wrote a kind of science fantasy time travel series. First one in that is called Not in Time, KNOT.
Nice.
And that one's a lot of fun. It's about a teenager who gets picked up to be an agent for the Keepers of Time, and
that should hit close to home to people that are watching Loki, I hear.
Right.
So,
yeah.
It's I had to chuckle at that when that first one I wrote several years ago, so it's a little pre Loki. Anyway.
Right. Very cool. Thank you for sharing. That's exciting.
Oh yeah.
So we've already kind of asked this question before, I would imagine, because you've been on the show before. But we'll say, I'll reword it then. What is your second most memorable D&D moment?
Well, I have no idea what I said last time. So the one that comes to mind is actually came pretty soon after I started playing again. I played in a West Marches group at my local game store in Montana at the time, and was playing a gnome divination wizard. And we had stumbled across a white dragon lair, fought the dragon, epic battle, of course. Couple of characters were down. We almost had the dragon down, and then it kind of zoomed down a bolt hole out of its lair, which was kind of up on the side of a cliff, and it was a slide down, so we couldn't follow it. Otherwise, we'd just be sliding out into the air.
Yeah.
But I sent my owl familiar out. I got line of sight on it and cast my last magic missiles at it and brought it down.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
That's impressive.
I think I just learned something amazing from him.
Yes.
Using familiars to snipe things with.
Well, usually the familiar you can only deliver touch spells, but you're saying you used it to gain line of sight so you could cast a spell that your character couldn't see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's raw or not, I have no idea.
That sounds right on.
Yeah, because line of sight just says you have to be able to see it.
You can see. It doesn't have to say you have to see from your vantage point.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because that means the spell could technically just weave around because you can still see it and pinpoint
and it never misses. You are an effing genius.
That's really smart. Yeah, that's really good.
That is awesome. I'm stealing that. Somebody write that down.
Yeah. Well.
All right. What would you say was a one moment where you failed either as a DM or a player, and what did you learn from it?
Again, a little more recently from the back in the day, but when I started DMing again, I ran an adventure that I wrote for this West Marches campaign, and we had the group was kind of assaulting a mind flayer hideout cave system, and they decided to camp not far from where it was. And so I continually interrupted their long rest that they were trying to take by sending Mind Flayer, their minions, Kragoth or something like that. I think I had it there anyway. And they refused to get up and move to another place where they would have been safe. And eventually one of them fell victim to a mind flayer because I just was getting tired of them not getting the hint. And the Mind Flayer ate the character's brain. And so anyway, I regardless of the player's thick-headedness, I shouldn't have let that get to me. Should have just let them go ahead and take their rest and then continue on with the adventure. But at that point, I think things kind of broke down and went south after the player got his brain eaten.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm right there with you. I don't think that characters will just take rests in the middle of infested enemy territory. So I say they all deserve to get their brains sucked out.
Yeah. That's really bold of you to assume that you're knee deep in enemy territory. And you're like, I think I'm just going to take an 8-hour rest here. Yeah. I'm going to fall asleep.
No problem, right?
Yeah. Get a full night's rest in here. No disturbances. Yeah, it'll be fine. No way.
Yeah, no, my current campaign, I roll for it to see if they have any encounters. But lately, the player's wised up and use like a movable rod against the door.
That's
that's smart.
Something, right?
Yeah,
it's not
and at least
stopping them from coming in, or arcane lock or something. So.
Yeah, at least they're like
very cool.
Attempting something to make sure they don't get bamboozled by an army of mind flayers.
Although I've been having time to go. Yeah, it turned out that the instead of the door opening into the room you're in, opened out, so that rod didn't actually.
So the rod didn't do anything. That's like a failed intelligence check. Like, I want to lock the door with the immovable rod. Give me an intelligence check. I got a 3. Looks secure. I thought you said you locked it. They pulled it open. I thought they were gonna push. All right. So thank you so much. We love having guests on and having them share kind of those memorable and learned moments, because everyone's experience is different in D&D, which is probably one of the reasons why I absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
We brought you here to talk about incredible creatures because I love monsters and I'm super excited for this. So can you tell us a little bit about incredible creatures and kind of how it came to be there, Alan?
Yeah, you bet. As I said, I've been doing stuff on the guild for a while, on either my own projects or working with other folks, writing and doing other things. And I did a project called Kendall Santor's Treatise on the Mournlands, which is done very well. And excuse me, for that, I found just a bunch of stock art of monsters, because I wanted to make monsters that you might find in the Mournland for the book. And so I found a bunch of stock art that hadn't been used for other things, stock art site. And I gave it to a bunch of the writers, myself, and we all, created monsters from that. And it really seemed to go well, and the writers enjoyed it. Kind of going backwards like that, because most of the time the writer sits down and thinks up a monster, and then an artist comes in later and creates that creature from the artist's vision, or from the writer's vision, excuse me. And so it occurred to me that maybe a full-fledged monster book using that approach would be really interesting. And so I went and put a call out for artists to just give me wild stuff, whatever, something that you came up with yourself, and then I will bring writers in to make those pieces of art come alive as a monster for the game.
And there is certainly some crazy ass artwork in this thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the one right on the screen right now. It's a little
looks like a big pack of bubble gum with teeth that somebody chewed and spit out. Man, that's funny. So so that's definitely an interesting approach. We actually ended up doing something similar for Memorable Monsters, and
we did,
because there is something that is just more awesome about having, it gives you a jumping off point as like a writer, and you can find a way to leverage the images that are in the pieces of the image and how it would develop of what this creature is. Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this bubble gum with horns, and I definitely see that as something out of like the Far Realm or something. But somebody else may think of that as something completely different. I don't even know what beastie this is, but it's one of the first ones in the book before the living hallucination. But
Yeah.
there maybe it is the living hallucination.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's definitely a different approach, and I think that makes it.
It certainly makes it easier for the writers. I feel
You
like.
think so?
I think so, but only because like, since the artwork is already there, or at least in this case, you actually hired out some artists. You can really, like, writers can kind of look at something and see like, oh, so there's these details about this thing, right? Like maybe this thing is wielding 2 swords. Well, if it has like 2 swords, then maybe it was skilled at one point, or it's strong enough to wield both those swords at the same time. So you can kind of like jump off that and write about that.
And start building the mechanics around that too.
Exactly.
This is the caustic shambler, by the way, which is just a monstrosity.
Yeah, I mean it looks like one, so that's it's an appropriate name for it.
I love it. So, as you're going through this process, this was a Kickstarter. Was this your first Kickstarter project?
It was. I worked with Jeff Stevens on his Potbellied Kobold
That's a good book.
I wrote one of the adventures in there, and also did the layout for that book. So I did have a little bit of
Speaking of just
a little bit of heads up on as far as how the process worked. But
I was speaking of Jeff Stevens,
he's got his shirt on. So you worked with Jeff Stevens' Kickstarter. So is that what prompted you to do your own, or were you already thinking about that and this just kind of gave you the direction to really, and the motivation to push it forward?
Yeah, I kind of decided that that this was going to be, just because of the amount of art and other writer. I mean, this ended up being, we had close to 50 contributors with this. So, and I wanted to make sure that everybody got paid fairly and to have a really quality book.
Yeah, and
so Kickstarter was kind of where I was headed to begin with, but that you definitely it was a steep learning curve for sure. Definitely will do some things differently next time, but it was successful.
So if you don't mind elaborating on that, because it sounds like you stumbled into some challenges. Was there anything in particular that you had to overcome during the process, whether it's the actual development or the Kickstarter process?
Well, the really the biggest one was just my complete goof in launching early. To me they have a place in Kickstarter where it says you're going to launch your thing on this date, and then later on when you're going through, there's a button to push to say, are you ready, that type of thing. And I just assumed that putting in the date meant that that's when the thing would launch, but that had no bearing on anything whatsoever. So I hit the "Are you ready?" button, and there it was. It was launched.
Oh no!
Yeah, and I'm definitely not the only person who's done that. After doing that, I had a moment of panic and got in with their tech support and things like that, and then talked to some other people. Oh yeah, I've done that before, and things like that. But at any rate, I let it go. I went ahead and let it go for a week and a half or so, and realized we may have made our goal, but I just decided to, rather than just do everything haphazard, that I'd take it down, get our ducks in a row a little bit better as far as promotion and things like that ahead, and then a couple months later we put it back up and did very well. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
And what do you think separates Incredible Creatures out from other monster books?
Well, aside from the fact that we started with art, I wanted to mostly, well, partially for budget concerns, just because, again, I wanted to make sure that people got paid, especially the artists got paid a fair rate
Right.
for what they were doing. But I also really liked the idea of getting different takes on each piece of art. And so what we did was we had the writers go through, they submitted ideas, but we wanted to have a representative for each tier of play from each piece of art.
Right.
So each one has a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3, and a tier 4 monster that was written for it.
All right.
Very cool.
And I really enjoyed, I mean, there's a few, handful of them in there that are, just because of the way the art was, it lent itself to a particular type of creature. And so there may be some, some similarities between the tiers, but for the most part, the writers really knocked it out of the park and took some very different approaches with each piece of art, and that I thought that was really a lot of fun.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the monsters in this bad boy. As I'm scrolling through this, I'm pretty sure I just came around a Skeeter with a massive claw Peter. This Oberonth familiar, like, these are some crazy designs. I love it. But that would be horrifying to have that thing like just mauling you, I guess.
Yeah, it looks pretty alien, honestly. It's pretty scary.
Do you have like a favorite monster in this book?
Well, just mostly because I'm most familiar with them. But one of the ones that I wrote was called Pleurodon, which is kind of it's like a salamander creature with a bunch of extra arms. And
let's see if I can find that. I didn't know how to spell that, so I'm just gonna go to the go to the contents here. What is it called?
And so my idea for that was that it was the creation of a sea hag that wanted to use it as a kind of a helper for her to create potions and other things like that.
Okay.
And it
Nope, that's not it.
kind of took on a life of its own, and now there are a few Pleurodon around, and they operate as basically like super alchemists, and actually have lairs where they create these tinctures and all kinds of different things, and maybe have other creatures to use as vectors to sell their things and things like that. So there's a whole layer.
I'm trying to find that. What did you say it was called?
Created. Let me 1 second here. I can find the page for you.
Yeah, that would be great.
It is on page 54.
Oh, I way overshot that. No wonder I can't find it.
Yeah.
The Pleurodon.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yep, all the potions and stuff. I do remember seeing this earlier. So this is interesting because the you had it doesn't look like it. So you started talking to us based on like a hag. So I got this hag image, and then I look, and it looks like a multi-limbed lizard. Is that right?
Feathers for hair.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's a.
What?
Yeah, it was the creation. A sea hag created it.
Okay. I gotcha. I was like, yeah, accidentally created. That is very cool how you did that.
And it's CR14.
Yeah, it's a strong one too. I like that it's got the slimy coat that gives it advantage against being grappled. That's pretty cool. So you guys came up with some really cool like powers and stuff or features and stuff in this. And there's something that I noticed that some of them have that's different. Can you tell me about the heroic mechanic that you added?
Yeah, it's kind of based on the mythic actions that that they started using in Theros, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But what we wanted to do was give an option for basically it's a conditional, um, either a conditional trait or action, depending if some particular event happens, then this thing either gets triggered or can be used by the creature.
Yes,
Okay.
and that is super cool to me, because it kind of reminds me. I took legendary actions and started applying them to lesser powers or lesser creatures, but I always tried to consider special conditions for those. But I think you implemented it way better than I did. So I'm gonna have to take a lessons learned from Alan Tucker and the crew here. So is that something that you came up with, or somebody on the team did?
No, that was something I wanted to do pretty much from the start. After seeing that idea from Theros, it just made a lot of sense and really, again, yeah, like you said, it just gives your monster something different and unexpected, possibly, that can happen depending on what goes on.
For
So,
sure. And that kind of I mean, I'm a gamer. I think we're all gamers. That reminds me of, like, the big boss fights where they get to a certain phase or
Yeah, like a
something, and
phase
some
2 or
special
something.
event occurs, and
right.
that's one of the reasons why I love Death Burst so much. Death Burst is probably one of my single favorite mechanics out of the generic monster stuff, because you can toss that to any monster. Like, I remember the first time I used it on skeleton or zombies. No, it was skeletons, because they're call them bone shard skeletons, where they had little arcane crystal like sigils on them. And the players are like, "What is that?" Well, the wizard happened to roll like a 5 or something. I'm like, "You don't recognize the sigil at all." Barbarian charges in, blows up one, attacks it, blows it up. It chains, does damage to the next one, which blows up, and then like a little train of them blew up. So anything like that just creates a more dynamic encounter is something that I love. And I think you guys did really, really well in this supplement, or this monster supplement. And man, some of these monsters are crazy looking.
Yeah.
This is like an alien anteater.
Kinda, yeah. It looks pretty freaky.
It's got the leaping death. So is there anything else you wanted to call attention to in this book before we move on to the next segment there, Alan?
Well, I guess just quickly with that, in relation to the Pluraln, I created a magic item called, well, there's 2 of them. There's a potion of enhanced magic, I think it is, or magic enhancement, and then in relation to that, there's also a potion of wild magic.
Ooh.
And because of that, I decided, as you do, just to redo or make a completely new wild magic table.
Nice.
Because I was always disappointed in the sorcerer one, the fact that they were doing a D100 table that only had 50 options. That just didn't make any sense to me at all.
And you're not alone in that. There's a lot of people. Why does the D100 only have 50 options?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have there's a whole D100 wild magic table in relation to this potion of wild magic, but you can use that for anything if you wanted to. So.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me? So you've got an eldritch god here. It's the first god that I think that's actually just called a god. Like, is it meant to be something? What's the word where it's not extremely well defined as its name? Or because it's talking about like a type of them, right? It's like a type of monster. Is that correct? The eldritch god. Because it seems like it's not a specific monster, but like a type of monster, maybe?
Yeah, maybe scroll down a bit more. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
It is
one
monster. Yeah.
I just got to scroll down farther, but it's a CR 30.
It had a few variants too.
Oh, the variants. That's why I probably threw my ass off.
Yeah, there's some variant stuff up there. Yeah.
So they got the Masters of Madness and the Soul Side. This is really cool. What? To my knowledge, there's very few level CR 30 monsters. Is that correct?
Yeah, at least from like strictly the monster menu. Yeah, there's not like very many even remotely close to that challenge rating.
No.
So, when you were when this monster was being designed, Was that something that had to go through any iterations? Because I've never built a monster that big and strong.
Well, I had two editors actually that worked with me on this, Terry Herc and Christopher Waltz, both outstanding editors and very good mechanics as well. And so all three of us kind of went through these and took a look at these after the writers submitted them. And in some cases, we asked the writers, "Hey, let's take another look at this and go back and do some things," or we, between the three of us, we made some adjustments here and there for some of them, just for balance issues. And I mean, I'm sure we've made errors along the way, but we did. I think we ended up with 2 CR30s out of the stuff that we did. There's everything from, I think. There's
Dwarf Eater
back here since I have this print
Mm.
you can get to, but we have listings by CR rating, and we have everything from 1/8 all the way to CR30 in the book.
It's like 130 or so, right, or more. Monsters.
I think there's a total of 140 stat blocks total.
That's a lot.
Quite a bit. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Overall, I am very impressed with this. I think you guys did a phenomenal job, and it's certainly swarm of amberized bees. That sounds awesome. So, with that, where can people find this? Where can they pick it up? Where can they follow you? All that jazz.
It's on DriveThruRPG, and again, you can get it in either print or PDF forms. And right now, I just have a standard color hardback available. We should have a soft cover as well here in a few days, as soon as I get the proof back on that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And yeah, if you can find me on Twitter. Myself, I'm @TuckerAuthor on Twitter, or my website is alantucker.net.
Okay.
Very cool. Definitely make sure to check them out. You can find the link right at our website at critacademy.com. Just click on the blog that says Incredible Creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Please do that. Not only do you support him by picking it up, but it's an affiliate link, so we get a few cents. So
yeah.
With that, we will move on to our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment.
And now, what you've all been waiting for, our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment, where we bring you new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
I almost forgot to unmute us.
I was gonna remind you, just in case. I was right there.
So our character concept was brought to us by you, Alan. So would you like to tell us a little bit about Mazam Waggletop?
Yeah, this is a character I played recently in the campaign last year. And he's a gnome, young gnome wizard named Mazam Waggletop.
It's an awesome name.
And he's quite small, even for a gnome. Hasn't really felled out since he spent most of his life on the streets. Dark hair and dark eyes, and wears his tattered robe, just made of rough material that he's picked up in the street. He's very bright and inquisitive, pleasant to converse with, but lacks a lot of the social norms one might expect from someone so intelligent. Excuse me. He's quiet and observant, preferring to stay in the shadows, but isn't afraid to ask for something he wants or information he seeks. And his background is that he was an only child. His parents ran a bakery in his hometown.
That's cool.
But they vanished one night, leaving Mazam to fend for himself. He's convinced that they were murdered. Why else would they leave him? And during his time on the streets, he came across the body of a wizard student in the back alley, or in a back alley one night, and happened to discover a spell book that was kind of sewn into a secret pocket of the wizard's robes. It turned out that the wizard was studying necromancy, and after many months of study and practice, Mazin began to understand some of the book's contents and realized this might offer a path to reconnecting with his parents someday.
Oh no.
Talk about trying to raise a family.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, you did not. So
I wanted to make a necromancer who was coming from a kind of a good place, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, it really is interesting because
Yeah, normally people, when they think of necromancy, they think of, oh, that guy's evil. He's raising dead things. It's like, well,
yeah,
that's just what the magic does.
this guy just wants to see his family. Plot twist: they're not dead.
Yeah.
And he's someone.
Actually, that was coming when we ended up, because of pandemics and things, we ended up moving on to other things. But yeah, that was in the works from the DM, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. So I really like characters like this. I think that this works really well as a PC and NPC because dabbling. We've seen it in the forums. We've seen people talk about it, necromancy. It's this horrible thing that is only evil people do, but people then forget revivify is necromancy.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Guess who uses revivify?
Clerics.
Clerics.
Paladins.
So this is the type of people doing the one side of the story and ignoring the rest. You know what I mean?
I think what really sells this character for me, actually, is it's a lot of the it's like using like dark powers for good kind of thing, if that makes sense. And like that's such a fun trope that doesn't get used very often, I feel like, because it's one of those things where it's like you are this character who may have been coming from like a struggling background or something, right? And you're willing to do, well, virtually anything to get, you know, bring back either like a loved one, or in this case their parents, or you know, anything like that. And now they're using these powers that are normally seen as evil, right? But does that make them evil? Well, what's the motivation behind it? I mean, what is their views? And that challenges a lot of things, I feel like.
And I feel like that's the big thing is when it comes to using magic, in my opinion, magic isn't inherently evil, but it's the intent behind it.
Right.
And I think the Revivify spell is the perfect example of that. If you saw a necromancer walk over and resurrect somebody, you wouldn't think nothing else other than that guy's dabbles in dark arts.
Right.
Right? That's all you're going to think. But if a guy in shiny plate mail walks up and does it, oh, he's such a good person. Look at him saving that person and bringing him back to life to this torturous world.
I just thought of a character concept.
What's that?
A necromancer wearing shining plate mail, and now everyone sees him as a good guy, but he's just some really heinous, like, I'm using literal eldritch power to bring people back to life, but I look great. No one assumes anything.
Looks like a paladin.
Kind of in a similar vein, I remember years ago when one player gave me crap for choosing the spell Inflict Wounds because it was necrotic and therefore evil. And that was their entire logic.
Yeah.
Only for me to say, how's it more evil than lighting somebody on fire with burning hands?
It's not, right?
No.
And that's
exactly.
So I really like this character because it really kind of rides that bounds. You know what I mean? He clearly is trying to do something good, but most people aren't going to see it that way. So I think you did. This is a wonderful character. Thank you so much for sharing this. Did you have any other comments on it, Alan? I guess we kind of got carried away with our own thing and didn't really.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's great. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, that'll do it for our character concept, Mazam Waggletop. And that is just the awesome, best name ever, by the way.
I like that name a lot.
I like it. Yes, it's very cool. Today we're going to, our monster variant is the Blood Drip Spider. Now, I've mentioned how I absolutely love making monsters. So let me tell you about this one you can make and bring to your table tonight. If you do like this and it's something that really tickles your dice, my patrons every week get a fully fleshed out lore, background, and player feed and a one page for these monsters. So, all right, so what is this? You're going to start with the Blood Drip Spider starts with the origin stat block, the vampire spawn, making it a CR4. We're going to get rid of all the vampire weaknesses because nobody needs that shit. But if I'm going to get rid of its weaknesses, I got to get rid of some of its strengths, so no more regeneration and no more claws.
Yeah.
So we got this spider, so we're gonna have to give it some stuff that is spidery. I'm starting to realize I must have a thing for spiders because I've done like 6 spiders on the show.
Have you really?
Yes. And I love spiders because they can fight from any part of the terrain. But anyways, so we're
like
gonna give
vampires,
them.
I guess I didn't really think about that. I guess they kind of can too.
Yeah, they can walk on walls. We're gonna give them blind sight out to 20 feet, web sense, web walker. You know, all the traditional spidery things.
Yep.
We're gonna give them. This is where it gets interesting. The claws are a +6 to hit with a 10-foot reach. I think that's right because. Nope, that should be a 5-foot reach. I don't know why that's 10 foot.
I will change it right now.
That's a typo.
Right,
2d4 +3 piercing damage. If the target is a creature, it is grappled with an escape DC of 14. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained and the spider can't grapple anybody else. Aw, shit. What do you think's going to happen next? It's going to bite that shit. So we're also going to give it the bite mechanic, which means it bites one grappled creature. This is very similar to the vampire spawn's power that it's already has. By the spider that is grappled by the spider is incapacitated or restrained. So it's important to keep that in mind because restrained as well can come up from its webbing. I'm pretty sure. Yes. So when the target bites it, it does 2d6 necrotic damage, and the target's hit point maximum is reduced to by the amount of the damage taken, and the spider regains hit points equal to the amount. The reduction lasts until the target finishes a long rest. The target dies if the effect reduces it to 0 hit points. So we're also going to give it webbing. So it's going to 5 out of 6 recharge. It's going to shoot webbing to cause them to be restrained. This does require a 14 DC check to burst free of the webbing, all that jazz, 12 AC, 15 hit points, and it's vulnerable to fire, blah, blah, blah.
Typical web stuff.
Right. So on top of that, I want to give it legendary actions. Actually, I was just talking to Alan about this, that I love to give monsters legendary actions at low levels, but you have to be careful not to give them things that just do a lot of damage.
Yes.
So this one has reinforced webbing, which there is a product that I got on DM's Guild that's very much the inspiration for these, and I wish I remember who wrote it. Because it was one of the products we covered on the show. Legendary Bestiary, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, Legendary Bestiaries. Yeah. Yes, I remember now. Yep.
And so the first
I don't remember
one
who wrote it, but I remember the product.
Reinforced webbing. The spider rolls a restrained a creature restrained by the webbing action in the webbing more. So increasing the escape DC the DC by 1, webbing's AC by 1, and restores 5 hit points. It also gets web escape. It can use its legendary action to extend a line of webbing and web swing away up to 30 feet without provoking up attack, and then the webbing can recharge. So I know that's a lot. My monsters are getting very overly complicated, but I like that. I like options. So that's where we're going with this. So I took basically the blood drinking of the vampire and applied it to something that can restrain them easier and then eat them later. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Alan.
I was looking at this, and the only thing I like it a lot. They playing off of the name, the blood drip spider. I think I would have added an anticoagulant to its bite so that it makes it bleed.
Oh,
it's there now.
That is awesome. Why don't you write that in? Make it bleed. Make them bleed. Because I love monsters like this because it fights in any terrain, from any angle, out of the reach of the characters, and it does a lot of battlefield control. And those are the things that I really, in my opinion, make some of those encounters fun and engaging. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Yeah.
Man, a few words.
Well, you know how much sleep I got too. So
yeah, I know you're. What do you say? 2 hours? You're running on 2 hours of sleep. It's probably exhausting.
Yeah.
Austin, do you have anything?
Sorry, I was typing that in.
I appreciate that.
I just kind of made a whole.
And
that's okay. I'll fix it.
A base.
Actually, one guy asking how big's the blood drip spider.
So actually, I'm pretty sure I made it large, but that wasn't enough for a 10-foot reach. So I did scale it size up 1 size.
Because I guess a guy wants to capture and tame it.
Yes, do
I see. You may try, but I don't know if you will succeed.
That's because originally that's why I thought I moved it up a size and I gave it a 10-foot reach, but I don't think necessarily a large has a 10-foot reach. No. Maybe Alan can confirm that. I guess it depends on what abilities and arms and limbs it's got.
Yeah, it's not necessarily, but you could say that it's got long arms and have like a 10-foot reach.
Like a daddy long leg. It's got a itty bitty body, but just like massive legs.
Which I guess they all kind of do, yeah.
Some do.
So anyway, what I think about the spider, one, I really like the legendary actions, specifically the reinforce the webbing. I think that's actually a really nice touch to it because it's something that, well, I like it when you kind of make these legendary action things. Maybe I'm biased because I just work with you on the show, but
that's okay. Keep telling me how great I am.
I do like that a lot. I think I like the bite being able to just outright kill the target as well. I think this would be a fun kind of like. You could even say like, what is the like maybe like the adventurers are fighting in a cave against some different NPCs, and then like the spiders are coming in and they're kind of like the neutral, right? They just kind of want everything out of the cave kind of thing, and then that could be a really fun way to incorporate the spider. So if you don't want them to be like the main problem, they're kind of like a natural disaster almost.
Well, what I was thinking when I finished this up is how awesome would it be to have people call in accidentally misidentifying the attacks as vampire attacks, and vampire hunters show up totally unprepared for what they end up fighting.
Giant spiders.
Yeah, like that sounds just fantastic to me. And that's one thing why in my monsters when I put them together for my patrons is that I love the little lore sections, right? Because that's going to be one of the lore sections is their attacks are often mistaken as that of vampires. And because of that, I think the DM can play with that enough to cause enough confusion. If there's nothing better than somebody getting a knowledge check that's low and it just causing confusion instead of just saying, you don't know anything. Oh, yeah, you're pretty sure it's a vampire attack. Let's get our steaks, guys. Get us some garlic. Let's go.
Sorry, talking like T-bone, sirloin.
Billy? Where's Billy? Oh, my God. Billy is caught in a web. We are bone. Anyway, so that's kind of the kind of crap that goes through my mind. So.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that a lot.
So can you see this guy's message, this black mesh? I only see one chat message. I don't know. It says, ask me what I do for a living. I deal with numbers.
Yeah.
It won't let me type in. I don't know why, so I can't respond. So that'll do it for our monster variant, the
Blood Drip Spider.
Blood Drip Spider. And what a great name.
I like that a lot.
Drip, drip, drip.
So we'll move on to the encounter of the podcast, A Chance with a Dragon. The characters spot an adult brass dragon flying stoic circles over its domain. Adventurers who get the dragon's attention might be able to bribe or bargain with it in exchange for knowledge or favor. Nirvanolith doesn't consider the party a threat unless they attack her directly. She is placid and curious and among one of the most talkative of her kin. She is slow to anger. Even in battle, she is rarely cruel or vengeful, frequently allowing her beaten enemies to retreat. In spite of this, however, she is still conceited, proud, and a bit touchy at times. A prominent head crest shaped like a plowshare distinguishes it as a brass dragon with a successful DC 15 Arcana or History check. Nirvanolith knows the following information, but will only share for what she considers an equivalent exchange. Some examples include precious handcrafted works in materials such as bone, wood, stone, or fabric. A character with the guild artisan background knows exactly where to go to get these high-quality handcrafted goods. Gold, gems, and other precious coins and metals. Courtly gossip and treasonous affairs, because what dragon who has lived forever doesn't want to know more about the going-ons of the world?
Brass dragons do.
Sure.
They like to talk.
So, here's some of its things. She is well informed of the positioning and behavior of two-legged grounders. A foolish hydra has found its way to a new home in a cavern behind a waterfall just within her domain. She believes the beast will provide a good meal for some time, as their heads tend to regrow. Nirvanolith used to have a regular visitor, a wizard named Liamel. He built a small home at the top of a towering mesa in her domain. There he retired and discussed two-legged grounder politics and showed her card tricks. If the characters locate and travel to this location, they can find a small weathered wizard's tower containing the Deck of Illusions. A merchant ship sank off a shore at the edge of her domain during a storm just before her last slumber. With a successful DC 15 Arcana history or nature check, a character knows that a dragon can slumber for dozens, if not hundreds of years. So that
may not be recent.
may not be pertinent to anyone except for maybe the elf in your party who managed to actually say that he's over 200 years old. Nirvanolith can provide general knowledge on recent changes in the environment, well, maybe not so recent as the last point may have inferred, in the environment, and similar out-of-place oddities. Any additional information the Game Master wishes to include, because, of course, brass dragons like to talk, particularly Nirvanolith.
Yep.
I like the encounter title of A Chance with the Dragon. Alan, what do you think about this?
Oh, I love using dragons as quest givers. That's a terrific way to have dragons in your game and not be just fighting them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I was gonna say I actually really agree with using dragons as like these, because like you could fight the dragon, right? Like, yeah, I guess, but like, what's gonna be way more memorable? I want to talk with the dragon and know what it knows, because it's lived clearly way longer than I have, and it's like a primordial being essentially. So I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna just say hello to the dragon. Maybe he'll give me something cool. I think that's way better, rather than me trying to fight and die for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything, Ian?
Anything we can chip a brass dragon's good in my book.
I would like to note that I wrote this a couple weeks ago before the mention of the Draconomicon. Is that what it's called?
No.
Is that what it's called?
That's a 3.5 version.
Oh, what is the new one?
I forget.
Whatever. The new one just came out. It's got a bunch of dragons, and it's even got the gem dragons, which upsets me because I really, really wanted to write something with gem dragons in it, but they beat me to it. So, yeah, I like this encounter. It was a lot of fun to write and create. I was going through my 4E books, and I found the I think it's actually called my Draconomicon is what I think it's called.
No,
but it's got the
no Fizz-based treasure. You have dragons.
But I was reading up on the different dragon types, and I was like, I want to build an encounter around this that's not let's go kill it, as Alan said.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like this came around really good. I enjoyed the nice little touch of the Hydra, using it as food since its heads grow back.
Yes, I liked that a lot.
Because I was thinking, like, what monster could be an inconvenience to a dragon, but also a powerful resource? And I was like, food. Well, what can do that? Something that grows back. Hydra, nailed it.
Yeah, I thought that was actually really good. I like that a lot.
I remember some goblins or something in the webchemical order of the stick opened up a Hydra headstand.
That's funny. All right, that'll do it for our encounter of the podcast. A Chance with a Dragon. Ian.
No, I apologize in advance if I mispronounce this, but Sizil's Mask, which comes from Incredible Creatures.
Ooh.
Wondrous item and rare. Any creature that puts on a mask bearing its likeness must make a DC 16 Charisma saving throw. A creature that fails to save behaves as affected by the confusion spell and is charmed. Oh boy. The charmed creature must repeat the saving throw at the end of its next 3 turns, ending the effect on a success. After 3 failures, the creature's soul is imprisoned in the mask and the confusion effect ends.
Wah, wah, wah.
Minor detail.
Oh no.
A creature whose soul is imprisoned behaves similarly to their normal self, but soon develops a compulsion to craft masks themselves and refuses to take the mask off. They no longer need to sleep and spend long rests making masks in any material. That could get weird really fast.
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't gain levels of exhaustion, but they can only recover up to half of their maximum hit points. While wearing the mask, the creature is under the non-detection spell, has immunity to any other charm effect, and their strength score is increased by 2.
Apparently crafting masks really works those muscles.
Yeah.
Soul imprisonment lasts until the creature is freed by the remove curse spell or similar magic.
Alan,
Interesting.
Very
I want you
interesting.
to know, there's a reason why I added this to this episode, because I wanted to thank you and the writer, whoever did this, because I just ran for my patrons my first real big masquerade political intrigue, and this bastard is in it. And I was like, this is awesome. I gotta include it. I absolutely love it. I'd love to hear your thoughts as, you know, the product producer of the Incredible Creatures, of, you know, this making its way and how it kind of came into existence and what you think about it.
Yeah, Kirsty Kidd is the writer of this particular one, and the monster itself is called the Zeisel. And it's on page 122 if you want to pull that up. But they just reading this portion, they're master crafters. The outer limbs of the Zeisel are incredibly strong and tough, able to burrow through the hardest rock. They're careful, however, to keep their fragile inner limbs tucked beneath their bulk when not carving. Smaller limbs are slender and dexterous, perfect for creating the delicate details evident in their masks. Zeisel masks are occasionally removed in mines or other underground expeditions. The grotesque caricatures prove a grim fascination to academics, collectors, and others. It's said the masks look like whomever was closest in proximity to the Zeisel when they carved it, even if the distance is measured in miles. If you see a Zeisel mask inspired by your own face, you become compelled to wear it. Some believe doing so invites certain death, but others claim it grants immense power.
Nice.
So yeah, I thought Kirsty did a terrific job with this one. She did several of the monsters in the book.
Yeah, it really blew my socks off. I was like, oh, this monster's got a magic item. That is the coolest magic item I have seen in a while.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It really is a fantastic tool. And like I said, I actually am running for my patrons, I'm running a political intrigue where they actually went to a masquerade. And so masks is a big thing. I was like, oh, this is perfect. Because I was trying to think of what I could put in that would be, that you could find in like because it's all about the Waterdeep nobles and their noble house society, and they're all meeting with this duke and all kinds of stuff going on. But this was like, I was like, I need to put some sort of reward in here, but I don't want it to be generic, like a sword or something that they just take off somebody. But this is something that, because it's a masquerade, makes sense to be perfect for the setting. So I loved it. I love the confusion. I love the compelling behavior. I love that it gives a strength score increase.
I think my favorite part is that when they fail, no one would ever know.
Oh, God.
Because they are still themselves, kind of.
Yeah.
But they have a bit of a compulsion. And I think that is what really sells it to me. Because it's like, it's almost like...
And there's a health penalty for healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I love this magic item. That'll do it for our magic item. Zeisel's mask.
Yeah.
Ian or Austin.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about our Dungeon Master tip? And then, Alan, would you be interested in taking the player tip after that? You don't have to if you don't want to, but.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
All right.
You want to tell us about our Dungeon Master tip?
Absolutely. Our Dungeon Master tip today is the location is a fulcrum for superior design. While many adventures start with monsters, villains, or some setting-changing event, of course, those are secondary to location. While the other tools aren't bad, in fact, they can be great, the location ends up being the most critical aspect of the storytelling experience. I actually have an example for that, as it's the only true story element the designer can control. The story and actions are dictated by the players and their characters, because they have agency. Additionally, the Dungeon Master runs all the monsters, villains, NPCs, the rest. Often, they customize these to fit their game and the table. This means the part less likely to be altered is the critical details of a location. When designing an adventure or campaign, the location is something that is often a critical part of the narrative, such as like a war-torn battlefield or maybe deep in a forest that just seems endless. Very few Dungeon Masters are going to use a map and desert setting for an underwater campaign. This is your chance to shine, not just by filling it with related monsters and lore, but to add unique features to that particular location. Continuing with the desert theme, indigenous cannibals that must survive on remains of the dead to help keep their people alive, or common sandstorms that might make getting lost or combat difficult makes for an interesting narrative. For instance, the sandstorms might affect travel times, or even better. The indigenous people have sleds with massive sails to ride the sandstorms from one location to another. Whatever you choose, remember that the location you set for your adventure or story can be leveraged to ensure that you have a superior design story. There's a multitude of ways you can make a setting for your campaign. I mean, you could even start them off in a floating castle. What are they going to do when they realize that they're stuck in the sky? How did they get here? You know what I mean? Like, there's many, like, for example, that I was going to use was I started my players off in this, we were going to do a more warlike campaign. Well, I told them immediately that you guys are ready to charge in. Everything is, going, we're all bolstered and ready. You guys are ready to take on. But you guys see something weird. Everyone roll perception. And of course, one of them rolls high. And I say, you see something really strange. There's a floating figure, maybe hundreds of feet off the ground. And he's like, well, what do I do about that? We're like level, 1 or 2. Why is this guy just floating in the air? He says, and everything fades to black for all of you right now. Everything is black. Everything is, you can't perceive anything. And everyone roll me like con saves, and I use that to kind of start like a turn order for everybody, and that determined who woke up first. As they woke up, there was just bodies everywhere. Everyone was dead. The battlefield that everyone was just standing on, it looked like there was a conflict, but it looked incredibly one-sided, and they don't know what happened. Like a massacre. And as though they get back, eventually, they see all these, people that are, having a rough time, of course. They get back to their fort that they were going at, and they realize that they were like, we thought there were no survivors. You guys are the only ones we've seen. It's been 3 days. They don't know what happened. They don't know what happened. I made sure that whatever that they did from here was inspired by whatever they just suffered, which was the best part. And of course, I made them suffer like 2 levels of exhaustion, which maybe I should have only did with 1, but whatever.
One's not bad enough.
Yeah.
So how did they react to that?
They were shell-shocked. They were like in awe. They didn't know, like, they were confused. They were like, we were prepared to go and fight. That was the idea. And we were prepared to they were mentally prepared to have these, scale these walls and stuff. And I just told them, yeah, everyone just died.
So what exactly happened to them that knocked them out?
So
DM plot point?
Yeah, that was me taking care. I made the villain, the big bad evil guy. He was there, but they couldn't see him because he was so far away.
Okay, but why did they get knocked out and not dead?
Happenstance. It's just chance.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. They're the adventurers.
So something happened, and they just happened to survive.
I mean, I told there were still other survivors as well. They weren't like the only ones.
Right. But for the most part, everyone died.
For the most part, there was an extremely high casualty count. But that's the setting. That was what they, experienced, and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, what was that? Like, we're gonna take this a little more carefully." And
what do you think about this Dungeon Master tip, Alan?
Yeah, it's great. It's really refreshing a lot of times to have the environment be the adversary rather than a monster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and I feel like that doing something like that allows for interesting NPC development as well. I think in the example it talks about the wind sleds, right?
Yeah.
Because while the players can pretty much go do whatever they want, when you build a setting, you get to choose how it impacts the area. And generally, a desert theme, for instance, is a horrible experience for everyone involved.
Yes.
And people only generally like nomads and shit, do that stuff. But when you have a full, massive society that's functioned around, we know this storm is coming, it comes out of regular, and these guys use it to push their merchandise,
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like we as writers and as dungeon masters need to leverage that more.
I also think it helps them immerse themselves in the story a lot more. Like I knew immediately after I did that to the players, like they were like, "Whoa, okay, we are survivors now." Like that is what happened.
They become all hail like survivors. All right.
Or like for instance with your desert theme, like that'd be awesome. Like I'm like, "Oh, so this is how society functions here." Great. Cool. I get to kind of
like people living in igloos in Arctic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's a shock to cultural shock when the characters go somewhere they're not used to because the setting is different. Ian, do you have anything?
Without question, a location does have a huge impact on what can happen. Like, if you, for example, go on an ocean adventure, obviously that will have a huge impact on what creatures you see or encounter, and let's just say there's a reason why most of my PCs I run always have some sort of huge phobias of oceans. There be krakens there.
Fair enough. All right, that'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip. Our player tip of the podcast is
Don't be a dick.
And you can avoid dickitude by role-playing a genasi. Genasi?
I think it's Genasi.
Alan, would you like to tell us a little bit about role-playing a genasi?
You bet. Generalities about genasi elemental manifestation are sometimes contradicted by the race's changeable nature. In most regions where a genasi is born or lives, the dominant manifestation is one most closely associated with the region's environment. For example, a water genasi is likely to live near large bodies of water, or a fire genasi near Pinot. Their elemental manifestation also shapes their skin tone as well as hair, though genasi don't have actual hair. Instead, it's a manifestation of their elemental bloodline. A fire genasi is likely to have red-toned skin with red and orange hair that gives off a slight energy that makes their hair appear as fire. Ambition and pride have long been a large part of genasi culture. Because of their unique nature, they are often treated as outcasts, not hated, but often unwelcome. This causes them to constantly seek recognition for their skills and strengths. While they have no long-standing animosity toward any other race, nor do they have powerful allies, oftentimes not even their own kind. A few great characteristics of genasi are free-spirited, headstrong, short-tempered, and impulsive. It should be noted that their elemental manifestation can also have an impact on their personalities. For example, an earth genasi may be more withdrawn and quiet, while a fire genasi may be a bit hot-headed, pun intended, and impulsive.
Alrighty then.
Some example genasi names are Emir, Sardis, Uriel, Lenges, Jera, Marakai, and Vanri.
Alan, you ever play a genasi?
I have not.
I played one in 4th edition. And I've wanted to play one ever since because we did a character concept called the Deceitful Genie, where it's a genasi because they're, half genie, right? Who dabbles in magic and uses it to con people, promising them wishes. And that just, I've wanted to play one ever since. Like, yeah, I can bring back your boy, but I need you to do something for me. And he might do little sparks and, little thaumaturgy or prestidigitation or something to give off that magical effect. But I need you to do something for me first. And then once he gets what he wants, just disappears. Like, that sounds like such a douche con man, but it sounds so much fun. What do you guys think about this role-playing tip?
So, I've actually never played a genasi either, though I have looked at them.
Same.
And they are like one of those races where I'm like, you kind of have to be a little more involved with them. Like they by nature, you kind of have to be. Because there's so much variation between all of them, you don't want to seem like. I mean, I guess you could, right? I mean, it's up to the player. But if you want to be like more immersed into like the world of D&D and whatnot, you kind of have to do, because which elemental manifestation you have, it really does kind of determine how to role play the character. Because you could be a lot more. I was gonna say down to earth. Man, I'm on fire today. Jesus Christ.
You messed up my headset.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, it's just there is a lot to go into them, and I think that's part of the fun.
Is rubbing off on you. You're
Apparently,
welcome.
I hate it.
Oh, you love it. It's great. Well, unless anybody's got anything else, I think that will do it for our player tip of the podcast. Don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by role-playing your genasi. It is worth noting that a lot of my lore and stuff comes from my 4E books because I've got way more of those than any other game. So I know that I don't know if that's still. I read through the expanded elemental evil stuff.
Yeah.
And this was still pretty on par. But if I missed anything, please send an email to the complaint department at critacademy@gmail.com and title it "You Got This Wrong," and I will make sure to do nothing about that. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Before we close out, we have another gift to give away. Compliments of our generous sponsor, MT Black.
All right. Our Fat Loot giveaway is Iskander City Sourcebook 5e by MT Black. Iskander, City of the Shining Spires, where merchants are masters and coin is king, but thieves and assassins rule the night. Where gods and priests walk side by side, even as unspeakable wealth peers down upon crushing poverty. Where guilds and great houses spar for political supremacy, while fiendish hordes muster just over the horizon. Iskander, home to all that is wondrous, noble, and laudable, and to all that is lewd, wanton, and vile. The Iskander City Sourcebook offers an in-depth description of this superb new fantasy city. Alongside the setting and lore, the guide is packed with content that can be used in any 5th edition game. Our winner today is Havoc 1353.
Woo!
Yeah.
Congratulations! Yeah!
It's awesome.
Didn't win? Not a problem. Head over to craighenry.com and subscribe for your chance to win.
Yeah. All right. That does it for our show today. I want to thank Alan so much for coming on. I absolutely love this product. I think you did an absolutely stellar job. Why don't you give yourself one more plug before we close out?
Okay. Yeah, you can find Incredible Creatures at DriveThruRPG. Either search Incredible Creatures or my name, Alan Tucker, there. And I've also got a bunch of products in the DMs Guild as well. So have at it.
Can confirm a lot of his stuff is phenomenal. I can't say all of it because I haven't gotten it all, but everything I've gotten, I've enjoyed, and you've actually done some fantastic work for us too. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
You can also find. I assume somebody's putting links in the comments about this. Usually my wife is following along, or maybe you are. So I see links popping up. So
yeah.
All right. So you can also find a link in the comments, or you can also head on over to critacademy.com and check out the Incredible Creatures blog. There's a link directly to those as well. Isn't that you?
Okay. Please join us on our next episode. It's currently tentative, as I can tell right now, but that's okay. On episode 229. If you enjoy the show and you want to support us, please head over to critacademy.com. Follow us on our YouTube and other social media. Please follow us on YouTube. We're always pushing for it, and it's slowly growing, but it's still growing. So hey, that's awesome. I know as Justin's YouTube shorts have always been awesome, so I see them occasionally.
Why is it tentative?
Because I don't have anything there.
Oh, okay, yeah. So on our next episode, we're gonna be talking Obsidian Portal. We have a special guest from them. It's not in there. My bad.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
Obsidian Portal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's an awesome campaign manager. So it's been around for a long time too.
Yeah.
I would like to take a moment to talk about our current Kickstarter. We are a little past the halfway point, and we're only at 50%. So if you like superheroes, or you know somebody likes superheroes, the full playtest is available right now. Please head on over to our critacademy.com and click the link to the Capes and Crooks, or just go to Kickstarter and type in Capes and Crooks and it'll come up. We need your help. We want to get funded. We want to make this project come to life, and it's certainly the largest project I've ever done at estimated like 300 plus pages, because I'm building a world, and apparently that takes a lot of text.
And we definitely had more than a few people who looked over and were quite enthusiastic about succeeding.
Very impressed.
Absolutely.
So I'm super excited for that. Got nothing but good vibes. So with that, I am your host, Justin.
I'm your guest, Alan Tucker.
And I'm your co-host, Austin.
And I'm your co-host, Ian.
There you go.
You're up. Thanks for listening.
Editing.
Thanks for listening. Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes. Let's all wave to the camera.
Adios.
Thank you guys for joining us.
See you later, guys.
See you later.